Here we are again, previewing yet again another poor performance from Luton. Yesterday we lost to Huddersfield 1-0, and I've gone through the highlights on the game yesterday, so I'm just going to discuss them, go through what my opinions are, what I would have done differently, that sort of thing. It's not an easy watch. It won't be an easy watch because for me as a fan yesterday, watching that game was pretty dreadful. So, yeah, let's get into it. Right, so the first main highlight that I really want to talk about is this red card for Alfie May on Kasey Palmer. Kasey Palmer runs past Alfie May, and essentially, I think what's happened here is Alfie May's tried to grab his shirt. Obviously, because Kasey Palmer's got long hair, he's grabbed his hair, and the referee has then sent him off for violent conduct. I think the referee in this one takes quite a while to make a decision on whether this is a red card or not. Now, from watching the game, I think Kasey Palmer and I believe it was Liam Walsh was speaking to the referee and potentially getting his ear. Obviously, I generally don't think there's any malicious intent from Alfie May. I think he tries to, because Kasey Palmer's got past him, I think he generally just tries to grab onto his shoulder, but because of the long hair, I think he grabs Kasey Palmer's hair. And there is a photo that the Luton admin on Twitter posted where he's got a handful of Kasey Palmer's hair. Yes, you look at Michael Keane the other week when he got sent off for Everton. He did something quite similar. Now, is it violent conduct? I think if Alfie May maliciously goes and pulls his hair, yes. But I think in this scenario, I'm not quite sure that this is a red card. I get the rules and understand the rules completely. But I think this is a little bit unlucky on Alfie May's part. Because, as I said, he hasn't specifically gone to pull his hair. I think just because Kasey Palmer's hair is long. And I think because of the decision that was made last week, or not last week, sorry, whenever it was for the Everton game, I think that has kind of hindered his decision a little bit in the fact that he has to give a red card for a similar offence. So I think that, yes, probably by the letter of law is a red card. In the grand scheme of things, is it a red card? Probably not. Now, did this red card affect the game? I don't think it did. I think it made it far worse for Luton. I think we, as a football club, really struggle against 10 men, and it showed because we lost yesterday. And it seemed to be the red card riled the Huddersfield team up and Liam Manning up. I think, as I said, it's a harsh red card, but I can see what it's given. But I think it certainly riled them up, and it gave Huddersfield something to specifically fight for. And I think that's why they potentially went on and won the game. Part of it obviously being us being really, really poor. But I genuinely believe that had a massive factor to the game and the game's result. I think if that red card doesn't potentially happen, I'm not saying we would have gone on and won the game. I'm not, because we're rubbish. But I think that gives Huddersfield the ammunition to go on and fight for every ball, win every ball, like they did against Bradford when they had the player sent off. So I think it hindered us, and I'm not trying to make excuses here because I genuinely believe that we are really, really poor currently right now. And it did hinder us, and I think it was one of the reasons why we lost that game. Now, their goal, Huddersfield's goal, I think, apart from it being a very good goal, which admittedly it is, I think there's a lot here to unravel about this goal and for me to go into. So I'm going to go into it into a little bit more depth than this short part. Right, let's go into a bit more depth around the Huddersfield goal. Before I go into Luton's failings, I do want to admit that it is a cracking goal. You have to give it to Ryan Ledson. The confidence he has to take that shot first time. Now, I think he has to take that first time. If he doesn't, I think Keeley gets back into his box and potentially saves it. So for him to hit it first time, the technique that he has to hit it, I do think it is a really, really good goal. Now, I think there's a lot that Luton could have done to stop that goal. And I'm going to go into that now. So, how Luton failed to stop this goal. I think there could have been at least 3 or 4 steps to how we could have stopped that goal. First of all, Mads Andersen, he had such a poor game. In my opinion, I thought that game would have suited him. The Huddersfield's physicality, them playing with Bojan up front. It just seemed like from minute 1 he wasn't interested and wasn't bothered. And he got subbed off on 60 minutes. And that's very unusual for a centre-half unless they're injured. And that kind of shows how poor of a game he had. But I think the issue that I had with Mads Andersen is that he played a hospital ball into Liam Walsh. And I think he put Liam Walsh under a lot of pressure and wasn't bothered. I think he had so much time to look for another pass, go to the right back, go to Longwick, or go down the line over the top to Kadua or Palmer, one of those. But instead, he decided to give the ball to Liam Walsh. Now, looking at it, I looked at the highlights there. Liam Walsh is there by himself, and he's got 3 Huddersfield players around him. 3 Huddersfield players, so 3 midfielders, and he's there by himself. First of all, Liam Walsh should be stronger there, admittedly. I think he's far, far too weak, especially in the middle of the park. Far too weak. He should be doing a lot more, be asserting his presence a lot more than what he did. He should be getting in front of the ball, getting in front of the player, using his body to shield the ball, which he hasn't done. He's kind of been pushed off it. So I think that in itself is another failing from Luton, that we've not protected the ball well enough. In 2 instances, the pass from Andersen and then Liam Walsh not being strong enough and not asserting his dominance in midfield. The final thing is, as I just touched on, there's 3 midfielders around Liam Walsh and there's no midfielders apart from Liam Walsh there or in the shot. Now, for me, this is a big issue because, yes, Ryan Ledson strikes the ball straight away. I've gone over how good of a strike it is. The problem we have is he's in the middle of the pitch with no one around him. So even if he doesn't have the confidence to strike that ball there and then, he has the time to pick the ball up, drive with it, or pass it on. So he's got so much time with no Luton players around him to put pressure on him, to make him make a risky pass or help or contribute to him losing the ball. And I think that's what makes this goal slightly easier. I suppose if there was a player around him, could have put pressure on him, could have put him off. But because he had no one around him, he had so much time to decide what he was doing. And that's where he's hit it straight away. And I've gone into quite a bit of depth of how good that goal is. And I don't want to take it away from him, but there's things that Luton could have put in place to have stopped that by potentially having an extra man there with Liam Walsh. I know that we were trying to attack, and I don't know what Jack Wilshere said at half-time, but we needed more purpose, and maybe that's why our midfielders were further forward. But in that instance, he had far too much time to strike that ball without no one anywhere near him or no one giving him any sort of pressure. And then the final part of what I have a little bit of a grievance about is Josh Keeley. Now, he's received a lot of slate and slander from Luton fans and from other fans, in essence saying that he's not a good goalkeeper, makes far too many mistakes. And in that instance, could he have done better? Yes, I believe he could. I think in that situation there and then, does he need to be literally on the edge of his box? I don't think he does. I think where we are positionally with the ball and with Andersen, obviously you can't predict what's going to happen in the future, that Ryan Ledson's going to shoot from inside his own half. But I just don't understand why Josh Keeley is that high in the pitch. I think with where Andersen is, he doesn't need the help. He doesn't need that option. Inevitably, we're trying to go forward. We're trying to drive. We've got 11v10. So Keeley doesn't need to be where he was. And again, I will go over the goal is a really, really, really good goal and one of the better ones that you'll see all season. But I think if Josh Keeley is not on the edge of his box and is, say, 2, 3, 4 yards back near the penalty spot, he catches that ball and saves it. And it gives him enough time to see the ball and not panic. I think, obviously, because he's not expecting Ledson to strike that ball, he panics. And he gets a sort of gloves to his strike. And do I think he could probably do better? I think he can. I think he could probably do more to save it. But that's probably been a little bit harsh on Josh Keeley. But I think his positional play there is all wrong. I think he needs to be positionally further back, so that covers that sort of thing. And I've noticed a couple of times this season with how high we have been playing, especially with how high Josh Keeley's been playing, a couple of teams have tried that. And again, Huddersfield tried it further on with, I don't know whether it was Dion Charles. I think it was Sorensen. I think they tried it later on in the game with Sorensen, but it was a poor effort. So teams have tried it and it's not come off. Obviously, in this scenario, it has. But I think with those 3 points of Anderson, Walsh, or 4 points, no midfielders around Ryan Ledson and the position of the goalkeeper, we could have stopped that goal. And again, I don't want to take anything away from the goal because I think the goal was a very good goal. But it could have been easily stopped. This next chance is after they've scored and they've still got 10 men at this point. And again, just reiterates points that I've been making for the last couple of weeks. Now, this chance just really, really frustrates me because this is Huddersfield all over. And especially when they've got 10 men, all they want is corners to try and get the ball in the box. And they've generally hit the crossbar. Again, poor defending from us. We have one more man than them. And I'm not saying that we should have had all our players in the box. But we've let their guy get a header. Yes, it didn't go in. But the point is we've let their guy get a header and it's hit the bar. And it's another very, very good chance for Huddersfield. And bearing in mind, this is before we had any chance or shot on target. So they hit the bar and scored while having 10 men before we even had a shot on target. Again, just reiterates the point that we were so poor yesterday and we were worse with 10 men. Against 10 men than what we would have been if they had 11 men. And for me, it's just this sort of chance is really frustrating about it because, again, we could have done a lot more to eradicate that. Yes, okay, they didn't score, but we could have done a lot more to help ourselves. Now, again, this is another Huddersfield chance, which just, again, reiterates my point. We gave them another chance, which they are better known for. And we kept giving them chances to go ahead and score and take to the game 2-3-0. Now, they could have won the game 2-3-0. But it's just poor because they seemed to be a lot better when they were 10 men. And especially in the second half after that, they scored that goal. It jeered them on. So, again, poor defending all in all. Just from Luton to concede 2 similar chances. And I think it was in the space of 5 or 10 minutes. Now, this is Luton's first serious chance, our first shot on target. And this is outside the box. So I'm not really saying this was a huge chance and we should have scored it. Yes, it's a decent save by the goalkeeper. But again, it took us 71 minutes to have a shot on target. So that's 40 minutes later, 40 minutes after they had a player sent off. So it took us 40 minutes to have a shot on target, which is really, really, really poor. And it just highlights the issues that we have, highlights how poor we are away from home, because that is shocking. That is really shocking. We're playing against a team that has one less player. We should have taken advantage. We should have sort of attacked them, but we didn't. We sort of sat back, passed the ball and held on. And it's just, for me, it was just the grand scheme of how poor yesterday or last night was. Now, this chance, it wasn't even or classed as a chance because there wasn't really a shot on target. But I think with this one, we played the ball well in from Longwick to Morris, who put a really great ball into the 6-yard box, which is a dangerous ball. But the way that I see it is, again, Nahki Wells was on the pitch at this point, but we didn't have a striker that was confident, because that's where you'd expect your striker to be. You'd expect your striker to be in there, tap that ball away, 1-1. We then could go on and win that game, but we didn't. And it sort of petered around the 6-yard box and they cleared it. And again, at that point where Longwick has passed the ball out to Morris and Morris has then got the ball across, we need players in the box. We need our striker in the box to be tapping that in, to be scoring that goal. And that would give us confidence to then go on and get another one. But because we didn't have that, and looking at the highlight, it didn't really cause Huddersfield too much of a problem. For me, they cleared it with quite comfortability, quite ease, because we had no one really chasing it down, no one really being on the front foot to try and put that ball in the net. And again, to reiterate the points that I've been making through this whole video of how poor we were and how not proactive we were. And if we were proactive, we could have then gone on and won that game. And then finally, our final chance that we had from Jordan Clark. Obviously, Jordan Clark was the striker at the start of the game. But again, for me, it's a real half chance. The way that he's hit it, yes, it was close. But we've not created enough. And we've not got in good enough positions to create real chances. I would have said that was probably a half chance. And again, it's 10 men. And I'll probably repeat myself probably 6, 7, 8, 9 times in this video. It's just not good enough. No matter who you are against, you don't lose to 10 men. You don't lose to 10 men. But we did it. And we're now down to 9th, which is really poor. I think Huddersfield certainly wanted that game more. I think it showed. I think obviously the first 30 minutes was probably quite even, if I'm being honest. And then as soon as they got that red card, they showed that they wanted it more. I think from the fans, from the players, from the staff. I think obviously everyone in that ground that was Huddersfield didn't think it was a red card. And I've spoken about it. I've gone over it. But I think that geared them up. I think that gave them the fight to go on and get something from the game. And with Huddersfield, they wanted every single tackle, every second ball. They wanted everything. And I think the red card certainly helped them a lot more than it did us. And I've spoken about how when we play against 10 men, we really struggle. And it showed yesterday. And I do have to give credit to Huddersfield because they defended really well. They wanted it a lot more. Obviously, they've got the new manager bounce, which I get also has a part to play with it. But they just wanted it a lot more than us. We made it far too easy for them, especially as soon as they went down to 10 men. We made it far too easy for them. And the problem is that we can't be playing like that. And say, for example, the unfortunate or the fortunate, we get to the playoffs. If we play like that away from home, we're just going to lose. But again, I have to give credit to Huddersfield, the goal, the way that they rallied together and played together. Now, conclusion of yesterday's game. Our away form is dreadful. We've lost 5 out of the last 6. And that's really quite concerning. And January is make or break for teams, and it seems to be breaking us. So that needs to be addressed really quickly. We've got 6 days left of the window, 6.5 days left of the window. We probably should reinvest in the squad, maybe get 5-6 players, but we won't. But the main thing of it, I'm not angry. I'm more disappointed in the performance yet again. And I thought that it couldn't have got worse than Plymouth, but it has got worse than Plymouth. And it was a far worse performance than Plymouth because, again, for 70 minutes they had 10 men. And we weren't on the front foot. We didn't take advantage of that. And that's really poor from a side that were in the Premier League 2 years ago. And I generally feel that we are going to be in this league for a while if we carry on the way that we are. For me, it seems like we settled on Power Court and we're putting all our eggs in one basket. But when it gets to Power Court, when I think it's going to be ready 28-29 season, there's no one going to be there because we're going to be in League One. And we're going to be a mid-table League One team. So a lot needs to be addressed, I feel. And I just don't think it's going to happen this season. I think we probably will peter on along up until the summer. And we'll probably miss out on the playoffs. And then when it comes to the grand scheme of things, we need a huge reset in the summer. That's my personal opinion. But we just can't carry on the way that we are. We've got a big game against Blackpool on Saturday, who lost to Stockport last night. Our home form is certainly better. We've only lost two games at home. 3 games at home, this season. Mansfield, Cardiff and Plymouth. We certainly need a performance, but I just think that if we win on Saturday, it doesn't hide the cracks of the squad, the mentality of the squad, because like previous managers with Matt Bloomfield, he won a couple of games. It just hid the fact of the issues that we have. And I don't think it's the manager. I think Jack Wilshere has been brought in to change things around. And I generally just feel like he's been thrown into a circus. And he's been told, here you go. Here's your minions. Sort it. And for your first proper managerial job, he's kind of been thrown into the deep end. And it's unfair on him. But yeah. We're on to Blackpool on Saturday, and I'm just hoping for a better performance where we actually try to play football. We try to play with some conviction. That's all I ask for. And if we don't win, but we play well, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Yes, obviously we're going to miss out on 3 points, but we've played better. We've showed character. We've been on the front foot, and that's all I want from this Luton team.